Now, if you tell people you're fishing Wilkesboro Lake, they're gonna say, you shouldn't eat them.
This is huge. Holy smokes, man.
The two worst fears is sinking and fires. Both of them will kill you.
I think I just got pooped on all over my back.
Look at the crab, Lord have mercy.
What is the state of black farming in the
Lord.
States today?
Sad.
You're trying to transform the planet.
There are a lot of problems out there, but these kind of people are the solution.
We owe it to the enslaved, and we owe it to the history of this country, because this is the money that made America.
Hi, I'm David Moscow. You may know me as an actor. I grew up in New York and spent my summers in Utah, Montana, and Maine, where I ate berries off bushes and got fish from cold streams. But I realized my summers were the last time I had true connection to the food I was eating, and I want it back. So I came up with a plan to meet with some great chefs from around the world. They present me with a dish, and then I hunt, fish, forage, and source all the ingredients to recreate this meal from scratch. Come join me on this crazy adventure, how I find out how food really makes it onto your plate. Chattanooga is a beautiful city that regularly makes the most livable city lists. Known as where cotton meets corn, it's on the edge of both Appalachian Mountain and cotton growing cultures. It was the first city to create municipally provided high-speed internet and is proud of its aquarium, revitalized waterfront, huge murals, and business incubators. It's heir to its history, which includes lynchings and Klan attacks, but also determined black resistance, including a historic judgment against the Klan. Discrimination has not disappeared, but there's an expanding black middle class and a recognition of black contributions, including food and cuisine. Which brings us to our chef on this week's episode. Chef Kenyatta Ashford was trained at the Culinary Institute of America. He opened a pop-up and is now preparing to open a brick-and-mortar restaurant. He has a strong connection to his ancestors and their forced migration to the Americas, which created the African diaspora. He honors his ancestors by pursuing his dream of opening an Afro-Creole restaurant in Chattanooga.
My food philosophy is to honor the ingredients that I use and then to honor my heritage. Because the story we want to tell is from the point of view of the African diaspora and the influence that West African people have had on the American South. The past 5 years, I've taken several pilgrimages to West Africa. My cooking has been inspired by that, where we try taking local ingredients and putting them in the context of West African and Creole flavors. Beans and rice was prominent in my diet growing up. And then when I learned about the rice history of Charleston, South Carolina, a lot of enslaved people were brought there because they were experts at growing rice. So the Carolina Gold rice and all the heirloom varieties of grains are really, really special.
Kenyatta.
Nice to meet you, sir.
Nice to meet
Yes,
you.
sir. Yes.
So excited to be here. This is one of my favorite cuisines, but not one that I know a lot about. Which one are we starting with here?
So we'll start with the red red. This is a dish that I learned about on my first trip to Africa. I was like, I'm gonna take that dish and make it my own. So you have West African flavor profiles where the red red is a stew of peas with palm oil and tomato.
Are these plantains in here?
Those are plantains.
Kenyatta,
That's
this
good.
is so good, it is not fair.
Anytime you start a pot of beans at home, you throw in what we call the Holy Trinity, so celery, bell pepper, and onion.
Well, what an awesome combination. So I have to get the Holy Trinity, I gotta get these peas, I gotta get some plantains, it looks like some onions in here.
Yeah.
Is this a particular type of rice?
Carolina Gold rice.
Is it a southern rice? Can I get it outside of Carolina?
Anson Mills is the one company that I know that you can get it from.
I really dig it. All right, I need to move on to the other one, which is sad.
Here is catfish and grits. Shrimp and grits is where this dish comes from. And here, since we're a landlocked state in Tennessee, we don't really get fresh shrimp. So spicy breading lends itself to the catfish because catfish is pretty meaty, almost like you're eating a piece of chicken.
This rocks.
It's good.
Oh yeah. It's like nice and crisp, it's got a little burn in it. Do you see a connection between southern dishes and West Africa?
There's so many connections to the food of West Africa and the people who were enslaved and brought here, and which you will find all throughout the South. So gumbo in a West African language is the word for okra.
Really?
Okra is native to the continent. That dish came over with West Africans.
I had no idea.
You can draw a direct line to a lot of stuff.
What's in this sauce over here?
So the sauce is just a stock made with a fish carcass. And the reason why I began doing that is because when I went to Ghana, people on the coast do lots of fishing. They preserve it by salting it and smoking it. And I was like, why not add that layer of flavor into a dish that's traditional?
Awesome. This sauce right here on the grits is wonderful. I have catfish, I have corn, I have the Holy Trinity. We've got this carcass. Is there anything in here that I'm missing?
Andouille.
Oh, sausage.
In the sauce, yes.
My goodness. Okay, I am super interested to explore all the ingredients and look at the history and try and get to the heart of what makes it so amazing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
I'm gonna see you in a week. Understanding Chef Kenyatta's profound mission to honor his heritage and to celebrate the impact of the African diaspora leaves me feeling both humble and inspired. I embark on this journey with a heavy heart, fully aware that this exploration will uncover painful sins from America's past. My aim is to connect with food producers who can help illuminate this rich and resilient heritage wherever possible. That's why our first stop is Crabtree Farms, inside the city limits of Chattanooga. It's a former slave plantation that has been transformed into a symbol of hope. Run by a nonprofit, this urban sanctuary provides community education while offering fresh, sustainable produce to the local community. Hey, what's going on?
Hi there, how are you?
I'm good, David.
I'm Lena, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
One of the reasons I love Crabtree is because this is a very entry-level way to get into agriculture. When I started, I had to apprentice on a farm, not very well paid, and this is a way to soft launch that lifestyle.
Why are urban farms important?
Mainly, it's preserving the urban landscape to have natural spaces. They're so important for mental health, for physical health, for community engagement. It's also a way to teach folks about the power of short-chain food systems.
Short chain means local.
Local, small-scale production. We're growing and feeding this region, this area. Especially in the neighborhood this farm is in, is an area of low access and low income, and we're trying to really get more nutritious, sustainably grown food into the hands of people who need it the most.
Well, let's go get some peppers.
All right, we'll get some serrano peppers. They're gonna be down here, starting from this area.
Oh, you got tons here. Look
Yeah.
at this. Do you have any, like, bell peppery type peppers?
We do, yeah, let's go find some. There's some over there, some bigger ones.
Oh, yeah, let's grab just one of these. I don't need a ton again. Oh, look. Chattanooga is pretty vibrant for such a sort of small city.
Yeah, it has a lot of accessible outdoor spaces. It's obviously very beautiful. But it was, you know, I think like the dirtiest city, and we had a lot of issues with pollution, and a lot of the industries that were here at one time made lots of money, but they also dumped their chemicals in the water. And so here at the farm, you know, we try to acknowledge the full history of what has happened here. This was originally land that Native Americans lived on and were forcibly removed from. It was also the largest working plantation, and folks were forced to work here against their will. And so we're seeing a movement toward reconciling what has happened, seeing what we can do to better protect and live on this land.
Hanging out here at Crabtree meeting Lena is incredibly heartening. It really feels like this farm is at the center of the wheel of a community. People like this are amazing, and there are a lot of problems out there, but these kind of people are the solution.